All right, guys, everybody, welcome back. We are with Mary. She owns MK Design Studio. Is that right, Mary? Am I saying it correctly? Good. She is going to be instructing you guys on how to choose between a do-it-yourself website or a custom web design. And I know that Mary deals with a lot of my friends in the photography industry. I've loved following her work and her adventure in her business, but she also heavily dives into Show It, which is amazing for all of you Show It people. You're going to want to definitely listen to Mary because she has the deets on all the good stuff. So Mary, take it away and I'll give you a 2-minute warning for us to answer questions.
All right, thanks, Amy. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. Like Amy said, my name is Mary, and let's get started. So let me just switch over to screen share. All right, can everyone see my screen okay? Awesome. Okay, so like Amy said, we're going to talk mostly about how to choose between a custom web design or using a template to DIY your website yourself, but there are a couple things that we got to talk through first. First, I'll quickly introduce myself. I know Amy just did. I'm Mary. I work with branding and exclusively Show It for web design. I studied graphic design and marketing in college, and then I worked at an agency for a couple years where I was working with mostly WordPress for web design. And then I discovered Show It, and it was a huge game changer for me. I'll explain a little bit about why and why I love Show It so much. So I do know how to code, but I always felt like I was limiting the creativity and just like how innovative I was being with my web designs because I knew I was going to have to build them with code, or the developer at our company was going to have to build them. And a lot of times he would like tweak my designs and make decisions that I didn't like as the artist because he wanted to make it easier for him to design. So when I learned about Show It, which is a drag and drop website builder, if you're not familiar with it, I knew it was going to be a game changer. I dove right into all the tutorials I could find, and I just fell in love with the platform. So in case you're not a Show It user yet, these are the 5 reasons that I really love Show It. So I work with mostly creative female entrepreneurs. I've worked with some awesome men as well. And one of my favorite features of Show It is just that because it is drag and drop, you don't have to know any code to update your website. So most of my clients update their website on their own after we work together because they don't have to write any code to do it. I would compare using Show It more towards designing in like Canva or an Adobe design program versus something like WordPress or Squarespace, which is what makes it so unique. Show It also integrates with WordPress for blogging, which is one of my favorite features. Because if you're going to be blogging, you want something that's going to be a really powerful tool for that helps you optimize your blogs for SEO so that Google's going to like them. So with Show It, you're able to write your blog posts in WordPress and you get all that powerful stuff that they offer. But for the design side, you do everything in Show It, which makes it so much easier. I also have used a lot of other website builders, like I said, and I think that Show It is the easiest to learn. Of course, there's a learning curve with like anything else you're going to try, any new business tool, but I think that Show It is pretty incredible, and their team is also awesome. They have a really big Facebook group for support, and they do individual support one-on-one if you message them, which is awesome. All right, so first, before you even decide if you want a custom website or a DIY website template, you have to know if it's even time to rehaul your website. So we're talking specifically like if you are ready for a complete refresh, maybe you're switching platforms, or you just know you need a totally new design, new content, all that good stuff. This list could be way longer, but these are the main reasons that I would say maybe it's time for a new website. So if your services or your ideal client has changed, especially if they've changed drastically, like maybe you are a photographer who started out photographing like every single type of session. So you were talking to basically anyone on your website, and then you decide a couple of years later, like I'm only going to photograph luxury weddings now. Your ideal client's going to be super different, the person that you're trying to attract on your website. So that's definitely a good sign you might need a new website. If you've rebranded but haven't updated your website, Maybe your Instagram, you're like killing it over there. You have this beautiful brand you've developed with all your photos and graphics on Instagram, but your website doesn't match. It could be time for a new website. If you don't know how to update your website on your own, and that's one thing that, you know, if you're an outsourcer and you don't want to do anything with your website, that's totally fine as well. But I do think that it's very empowering to be able to update your website on your own. If you haven't updated your website in years, could be time for a new one. Or maybe you're just really ready to elevate your online experience for your visitors. All right, so now we can dive into the big question of DIY versus custom web design. And first, I'm just gonna say that there's no right or wrong answer. You might be completely the opposite of what I'm gonna say for all these, and I've had clients like that. Like I've worked with brand new clients who wanna dive right into a custom website, and that's totally fine. But I'm gonna walk through kind of the things that I consider and walk through with most people when they come to me when I'm helping them decide between custom or DIY. So we'll talk about the DIY route first. And this is pretty specific to Showit website templates, but I would say that most of this could probably be applied to any website platform as well. So I think the timeline is one of the biggest things to consider. If you're here today and you're like, you know, I really wish I had my new website up yesterday, it might be a great option for you to work with a DIY template because you're not going to be held back by the timeline of a designer. Most designers do book out a couple months in advance. I know I do. So if you're like, I am ready to have that new website up, I want to get started today. I've seen plenty of people design a whole new website using a template in a day. So it's completely possible to do whatever you want with that timeline when you're DIYing. I think another great rule of thumb is if you're in your first couple years of business and your ideal client might be shifting, your services might be shifting a lot, it might be better not to invest thousands of dollars with a custom design yet and just get started with a template that you know how to update on your own so you can be making those updates as they come more frequently. Also, if you already know what you want, you know your style, you know the layout, you know the pages you want, and you found the perfect template, go for it. DIYing a template might be perfect for you. Also, the investment is going to be a lot lower. Typically, if you are buying a template and working through the process on your own versus hiring a designer who is going to be charging for their expertise and their time. So a couple other things to consider with DIYing a website template. Most Showit templates are going to come with video tutorials or some sort of guide to walk you through the whole process, which is awesome. So if you're looking at templates, I highly recommend checking out what they come with. If it's going to be videos or maybe just like a written out guide, picking a template that teaches you how to use it in a way that works well for your learning style is going to be really important. So you can always reach out to the designer if you're just not sure what kind of support and tutorials they provide. Showit's support is also amazing, like I said earlier. So if you have any questions throughout the DIY process, they're going to be there for you, as well as the designer of the template. I know that I offer one-on-one support with my template buyers, and so do most of the Showit website template designers that I know. You can also always get started with a DIY template and then hire someone down the road. So maybe you run into a page where the layout in the template is just not working and you don't feel confident in really changing up that layout on your own. You can always hire a Showit designer hourly if needed. Showit's website actually has a whole list of designers that they have certified as professionals in their platform, and it lists out who is hireable for hourly work. So you can always get some help on your template if you want, and you'll still end up paying less than the custom experience, most likely. All right, this is just a quick image of my Fallon template on the left and the way that a Indianapolis florist customized it herself on the right. Turned out really beautiful. All right, so a couple more things on the template route. How to pick the right template. I think it's really important to just focus on the content and the way things are out a template, not the colors, the fonts, and the photos. And I think that those visual elements can be very distracting when you're trying to pick the right template, but those are the easiest things to change inside of Showit. So you're really going to want to focus more on the layout and if something has the pages and the type of content areas that are going to work well for what you're trying to tell your website visitors. So if you're someone who needs a shop, you might want to pick a template that has a shop in it already. Or if you're someone who really is very into blogging, you're really good at it, you do it often, maybe you want a template that comes with a homepage that's already ready to showcase blog posts, something like that. Just some things to consider. And I also recommend talking to the designer of the template before you buy if you have any questions. A lot of designers are willing to like even hop on a Zoom call with you, show you what the template looks like inside of Show It before you buy it, things like that. Super helpful. Just ask them maybe which of their templates they think would be a good fit for your business. Yeah, definitely recommend reaching out to designers if you have questions and you can't pick the right template on your own. All right, now custom web design. When it comes to the timeline, if you're someone who's very flexible on your launch date, custom design is going to be great for you too. Like I said before, most designers book out pretty far in advance, and the actual timeline of the project is most likely going to be longer. So you want to be flexible on your launch date, or you want to plan ahead. Custom web design also often works best for someone who is a little bit more established in their business. They have their ideal client figured out, and because of that, they already know what they need to get out there to the world, and then you're able to really communicate that to your designer, and then you guys can work strategically together to create the best custom website for your business. So because of that, I say 2+ years, but this design that I'm showing here on this slide is actually a custom design I did with someone before she even launched her business. So like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. It's really whatever works best for you in your situation. Also, if you have an idea of what you're looking for, but you want the expertise for a designer to do the work, custom web design is a great option. If you are like all into outsourcing, highly recommend hiring for custom web design, because you're bringing in someone who does this for a living, and then you're probably going to spend less time and money and energy than it would to do it yourself. Also, the investment's going to be bigger for custom web design, so I think that's one of the biggest things to consider. You're going to be spending thousands versus maybe only spending about $400, for example, for a template. So definitely something to consider, and I don't think that anyone should go into debt with their website. So a couple other things to consider for custom web design. Designers are often booked out, which I had mentioned this before. So if you want to launch on a specific date, just make sure you're planning ahead, reach out to your dream designer, see what their availability looks like for the next couple months, and if they can squeeze you in or not. I'm talking with a photographer on Friday who really wants to launch on her business anniversary, which is in April. So she reached out in plenty of time to make that happen, which is awesome. I also said this before, but project timelines are going to be longer when you're working with a designer. Now, you could take a really long time DIYing your website, making everything perfect, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for custom design, I would typically account for about 1 to 2 months at least for working with a designer. Because like I say in this last point, working with a designer gives you someone to bounce ideas around with. It's all about strategizing together, figuring out what we really need to say to your visitors, and how to do that in a way that's really unique to your business. All right, so like I said, there's really no right or wrong when it comes to custom versus DIYing your website. It's really just what works best for you. And if you're just not really sure, I just recommend reaching out to a web designer that you trust, that you feel a connection to. You don't have to hire them. You can just ask them their opinions. Like say, this is where I'm at in my business. This is the season I'm in. What do you think? And I've definitely talked through people about that, and I think it's a good conversation to have. All right, before the Q&A, I have a little surprise for everyone. So I do have 5 Show It website templates in my shop. So if you're interested in checking them out, you will get 30% off in my shop. The code is good. Decide if one of these designs might be right for you. Plenty of time to chat with me about the designs and any questions you might have. But that's with the code workshop30, and my website shop is at mkdesign.studio/shop. All right. So I think I'm ready for questions. If anyone has any questions about the main topic of today or Show It in general, web design in general, I'm happy to answer anything. And then my website and Instagram handle are at the bottom. They're both mkdesign.studio if you want to connect with me.
We have definitely gotten some comments. Madeline said, when I rebranded last year, I was afraid to touch the website afterwards. So I still reach out to Ida when I want to change something. I think we're all like that.
Yeah.
You want to speak to that maybe a little bit on how we can handle some of the things like on our own? Because I think a lot of us are sometimes scared of touching them after that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, rebranding can change a lot with what needs to be on your website. You have all these new elements, new colors, new fonts, all of that. So I definitely recommend talking with your designer and maybe asking how they envision using certain elements of your new brand on the website. Maybe like you have this color palette and you're not really sure which colors should be the primary focus or things like that. Like if you're just not sure yet how to use those elements, I definitely recommend talking with your designer and seeing if they have any ideas for you. I don't know, I'm just such a collaborative designer that I love to just like talk back and forth with people, work through ideas, try something. If it doesn't quite feel right, try something else. And you know, if you have a brand designer and you're working on maybe a DIY website, like get your first draft ready and then send it to them and see what they think. Because I think that most designers are going to be totally willing to take a look at what you have and give you some thoughts and maybe make some recommendations.
Let's see. I'm multitasking over here and making sure I've got everything done for the workshop for a little bit later. Caitlin Workman said, just a thought about Show It. I'm so bad at all things website related, and they are super helpful with their chat. Hold on a minute. There was a comment that came through. Chat and fixed all kinds of things for me. Do you want to speak to maybe I've heard this a lot about Show It, that they're really good with their customer service. I think speaking to that would probably be good for some of us that have been on the fence about Show It for some time.
Yeah, definitely. Show It's team is awesome. So they have a chat feature right there when you're in the editor. There's just an icon in the bottom and you can open up a chat window. If they're not able to respond right away, you'll get an email back. And anytime I've reached out, I always get a response within like 24 hours. Like you mentioned, Caitlin, they hop in there sometimes into your account and will make changes for you if it's a quick fix, or they'll direct you towards a help document to walk you through it. But I think they're amazing. All of their chat or their support is done over chat or email. So I've never talked to any of them on the phone, but I've always had a great experience with Show It's help. They also, I think I mentioned this, but they have a huge Facebook group. So there are like constantly people in there asking questions, and then a lot of other Show It designers like myself are in the group and will hop in there and answer questions as well. So there are a lot of awesome resources to get your questions answered.
That's awesome. Tracy said, I cannot speak highly enough about Mary. She's been amazing in helping me with my site. So you're getting rave reviews, which I already see things like that from you anyway, all the time. Let's see. Mandy said, I want to say that if you do custom, make sure that you do your research. I hired a company that didn't complete it fully. And then 2 years later, they went out of business and I had to rebrand my site again.
Yes.
Oh, girl.
I hate to hear stuff like that. And I've had people come to me after poor experiences with web designers. So I know that it's out there for sure. Yeah, I just recommend like getting to know the designer before you book with them, whether that's just through like talking with them on Instagram even. Make sure you talk to people on the phone first. And you might have done all of these things. But yeah, there are definitely designers out there who maybe are just overwhelmed and new to what they're doing and don't have their processes all worked out and aren't going to be serving their clients well. So even potentially talk to people who have worked with the designer before and see what their experience has been. I definitely recommend that because yeah, there are people out there who, you know, a lot of designers are self-taught, and sometimes I think they just dive into hiring or booking with clients, and maybe they're not ready to be doing that yet, or they take on too many projects at once and then can't really finish everything the way that they should.
Okay, so Madeline said it's more just like adding photos and blogging at first. She's laughing, but that's why switching to Show It will be helpful because it's more user friendly. And I use Squarespace, and I love it. Like, I feel like it's super user friendly, but I hear that Show It can even be more user friendly. So any advice on that for us that don't use Show It, or maybe have to do some do-it-yourself stuff on that end?
Yeah, definitely. I have definitely used Squarespace a couple times. I personally found that Show It was more user-friendly for me as a designer because, like I said, the coding part of design is just not my favorite. And so I wanted a website platform that I can design absolutely anything I want and make it happen without having to write code. So that's why Show It works really well for me. But yeah, I think that there are plenty of website platforms out there, and so it's really whatever you feel the most comfortable in. I just think that as a small business owner, it's really empowering to be able to update things on your own. So even if it's something as simple as like changing a photo, like you can get on Show It, and in their help docs, you can like type in like, how do I change a photo? You know, they have like documents out there for all the simple changes, as well as things like how to connect Google Analytics with your site. But yeah, I think that for me, Show It is just like I don't feel held back as a designer, and so I can do whatever I want with the website and still make sure that it's optimized and going to show up on Google, things like that. And then I always do a training with my clients at the end of a project to make sure that they feel comfortable making the updates. And I think that's really helped because when I first started my business a couple years ago, I was just recording like screen videos of how to update things. But then I found that it was more successful to do a Zoom call like this and have their website pulled up and walk through it step by step so that I could answer their questions, and they're there like seeing, okay, what if I wanted to do this? How would I do it? So that's really been helpful to me as well.
We're getting some questions like, do you do website reviews?
So is that kind of like an audit where, making recommendations? Okay, yeah. It's not something I've done really before, but it's definitely something I would do. I guess sometimes when I'm talking with someone who's interested in potentially working with me, we kind of end up doing an audit when I walk through like, oh, here are some things we could change. But yeah, so if anyone's interested, I'd be more than happy to audit your website, make recommendations. But yeah, that'd be fun.
And that would be, I love looking at stuff like that. I love doing social media audits for people because I just think it's so fun to look through it and figure out what's going on. I think this is Sarah Clofton. She's asking, does switching your website to a new platform, keeping the same web address, but switching it to a new platform, does that affect your current SEO?
Yes, it definitely can. And when it comes to SEO, it can be such a back and forth type thing. Like the smallest change on your website could impact where you're ranking for specific search terms. So I always recommend if you are switching platforms or even just redoing your website in the same platform, your SEO rankings are probably going to shift a little bit. So give yourself like a month or two, see how those are changing, and then if something maybe drastic needs to happen again to kind of make sure that you're getting back to the rankings you had, then I would recommend doing that. But the SEO tools inside of Show It are pretty awesome. You can adjust things like the meta description, page titles, share images, all of that is inside of Show It. And then, like I said, blogging through WordPress, you have the option of using a plugin called Yoast SEO, which really helps for optimizing your blog posts for good SEO and rankings in Google. So I think that there are a lot of really good SEO tools in Show It. So as I would say with any website platform, you just kind of have to try things out, and then I would say like every couple months adjust things if needed to boost rankings.
And we actually heard about Yoast earlier too with Jessica Freeman. So that's actually the first time and Mandy, I think Mandy uses it. Is Mandy on here? Wherever she was.
Yes, use it, yes.
There, okay. Where are you? There you are.
I'm eating, and so I took my.
I'm used to your face being on there. I'm like, Mandy, where are you?
I didn't get lunch today, so I'm eating lunch at 4 o'clock.
But Mandy told us a lot about that when she was talking through her blogging. And then Hannah said, is it hard to switch your web address from an old website host? I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. That's a great question.
That is a good question. So Showit makes it pretty easy, in my opinion, to do it. Right there in the builder where you're editing your website, they have like a thing that just says connect your domain. So you just start through that when you're ready, and it walks you through a couple questions like, do you already own your domain? What is it? Where did you purchase it from? What's your login information? So stuff like that. And if depending on where your domain is purchased from, like if it's through Google domains, which I use a lot, their security is a little bit more intense, and so Showit might not be able to log into your account and do it for you. But if that's the case, then they send a document, like an email over explaining exactly what you need to do. So they make it pretty easy to understand how to connect it yourself if they're not able to get into your domain.
Okay, let's see. So Mandy said, my SEO rankings changed when I did my newest site, but it isn't hard to get it back up. When I switched to Showit this year, they made it so easy. They even have YouTube videos, which I love that.
They do. Showit has awesome resources, and then there are so many designers that are putting out things like on YouTube or just on their blog for different tutorials. So I think it's pretty easy to find, guidance on things like SEO specific for Showit, for sure. That's awesome.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Mary? Because, let's see, let me double check my time here. We're good. We've got about 2 or 3 more minutes if anybody else has any questions. If you don't have any more questions, Mary, do you mind posting the workshop code? Because there's going to be a few that some people are working today, so they're going to have to rewatch later. And so if you don't mind sharing your code in the workshop group, and maybe even your slides if you want to do that, so that people can follow along. That way they can see that code too, because I know that they'll appreciate that. And does anybody else have any questions while I'm waiting? Double checking. All right, Mary, thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
This is your first time teaching like this too, right, Mary?
Yeah, it was.
Great. Oh my God. You're amazing. I love following her. She's so fun to follow on social media. So if you do not follow her, definitely go over and follow her. If you need somebody to do your Showit designs, I think you're like already booking into next year. Am I right?
I am for custom design, or I also do semi-custom. So like if you buy a template but want someone else to design it for you, I have like 1 spot left for this year, but I am starting into next year already.
Okay, guys, you hear that? If you're wanting Showit stuff, you better email her today or like now, right now.
Yeah, reach out. I have a bunch of designers I refer to as well. So even if I'd be happy to send you to someone who might be a good fit.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mary. This is so awesome. I'm so glad you were here today. So here's what we're going to do, guys. When we end this one, we're going to take about let me double check here, 4:30. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. I'm going to obviously create the log on as soon as, like I've been doing all day long. Can you tell my brain's starting to get tired? I'm like starting to make my words something weird. You are going to be in for a treat with this next one for sure. Kayla is one of my Amy Cole brides. She owns a very upscale boutique in Huntsville, Alabama. And she is going to be doing something totally different than we've done the entire time we've been here. She is going to talk to you about styling your clothes for branding, for how Josh is going to tell you.
If we've answered that question one time, we've answered that question a million times, and that is the #1 question when it comes to branding shoes. I have no clue what to wear.
Yeah.
I do not know what to wear, and so this is
she's really going to walk us through like what looks good on certain body types and different things like that for these types of shoots. I love Kayla. She is amazing. So she's actually just like, so you want to definitely log back on. Let me wait till she gets here so I can tell her so she knows to log right back in. Kayla, if you can hear me, we're going to close it down and then you're going to come right back for your session. So don't miss this. You're going to get about a 10-minute break, but I'm going to restart the link right now. So I'll see you in a minute. Thank you again, Mary. You were awesome.